The real enemy isn't laziness. Most people assume procrastination is just laziness. That's the label slapped on the kid who misses homework, the employee who struggles with deadlines, or the creator who never hits publish. But here's the key truth: it's not laziness at all. Procrastination is better understood as conflict. It's the clash between two versions of you. The right now self wants comfort, the scroll, the snack, the nap, the easy hit of dopamine. The future self wants the reward that only shows up later. The degree finished, the project launched, the skill sharpened. Those two selves spend the entire day pulling you in opposite directions. When you stall, it isn't about weakness or apathy. It's about being locked in that tug-of-war between comfort today and growth tomorrow. Think about the last time you sat down to quickly check your phone when you meant to start something important. That wasn't a lazy choice. It was your brain protecting you from discomfort. Writing an essay, pitching a client, or opening that messy spreadsheet doesn't deliver the same chemical rush as a funny clip in your feed. Your brain keeps score of which path feels safer. It knows where stress melts and where it spikes. So of course your body gravitates toward the option that removes tension fastest. That's why blaming yourself for laziness doesn't hold up. You're wired to seek relief before reward. Psychologists have long shown how decision fatigue feeds this cycle. Every small choice, open an email, reply to a notification, or start that overdue task, uses up mental energy. As the day wears on, the uphill climb toward difficult work feels heavier. Combine that with what research calls analysis paralysis and perfectionism, and it's no surprise avoidance grows. When you overthink every step or fear doing something wrong, hesitation multiplies. Modern life adds dozens of decisions, pings, and inputs on top of this, until procrastination feels less like a personal flaw and more like an almost automatic outcome of the environment we're in. Our evolved wiring leans toward immediate rewards, and information overload makes that tendency stronger unless we put intentional breaks in the cycle. And if you don't understand this, you end up chasing the wrong solution. You grab self-help mantras about hustle, you shame yourself for not caring enough, you force routines that never stick. But none of that works if the battle itself is misdiagnosed. Imagine thinking you're fighting laziness, when really it's two versions of you wrestling for control of the same steering wheel. You can't strategize properly when you don't recognize who or what you're really up against. Take James, for example. For years, he swore he was just lazy. Assignments turned in late, study sessions dissolving into shows, half-finished projects piling up on the side. The word lazy became his identity. The turning point happened when he read that procrastination can act like a protective reflex, not a lack of motivation. Suddenly, everything shifted. He realized it wasn't that he didn't care. His brain was flagging tasks as threats to be avoided. What he thought was a fixed trait was actually the constant battle between short-term relief and long-term potential. That new perspective changed everything. Once he stopped labeling himself as broken, he started making decisions that helped his future self win more often. This adjustment carries a strange kind of freedom. When you frame procrastination as a clash of selves instead of a character flaw, you stop dragging around shame like heavy baggage. You no longer compare yourself to some imagined breed of superhuman who pushes through without hesitation. You see that everyone fights the same battle. Only some people recognize the real mechanics, while others keep mislabeling it. Recognizing it doesn't excuse you to sit still, but it explains why telling yourself, "I just have no discipline," never worked. The power of this realization is simple. Clarity. You're not fundamentally flawed. You're not condemned to stall forever. You're just human. And once you see procrastination as a pattern governed by rules rather than by your worth, you can actually work with it. Strategies make sense again because you're applying them to the real challenge, not chasing shadows. Miss this shift, though, and you'll waste years fighting the wrong opponent. You'll cut social media but still stall on what matters. You'll think failure equals personal weakness when really it was discomfort avoidance. You'll keep yourself in an invisible cage, blaming yourself for problems rooted in basic wiring, while the actual causes remain out of sight. That's the cruel trick of procrastination, convincing you the problem is laziness, so you never uncover the roots of hesitation. That's why reframing matters so much. You begin to interpret procrastination not as proof of weakness, but as a signal telling you your present self is overpowering your future self. You notice how the system around you, constant notifications, Endless streaming, task lists that never end, feeds your desire for small relief while starving long-term rewards. Once you see this clearly, the problem stops being "I'm lazy" and starts being "my brain is chasing what feels easier right now." And that's a problem you can prepare to solve. Look at your own patterns through that lens. Pay attention when you hesitate, not because the task is impossible, but because the feelings tied to it are uncomfortable. Notice how "I'll be more focused tomorrow" or "I just need to get organized first" are really just present self negotiations, buying more comfort, and pushing your potential self further into the background. Recognizing those voices for what they are strips away their power. So the point isn't to crush laziness, it's to mediate between competing selves. Once you learn to manage that negotiation, procrastination doesn't feel like a moral failure anymore. It transforms into a tactical problem, and a tactical problem can be worked on. You can experiment, fail, adjust, and improve. Because although you can't control every instinct, you can design ways to tip the balance in your future self's favor. Here's the thing, understanding the real enemy doesn't mean the struggle disappears. It just means you stop swinging blindfolded. You know what's pulling at you, and you can begin setting conditions that give the right self more leverage. That's the shift that separates people stuck in cycles of shame from people who slowly gain traction. You aren't broken, you're navigating a conflict wired into all of us. But knowing that truth isn't enough. Because once you recognize procrastination as this conflict, a new problem sneaks in, one that feels productive but secretly keeps you stuck. It's the habit of preparing, planning, and organizing endlessly without ever actually stepping into the work itself. And that trap is just as sneaky as the distractions we've been talking about. The trap of preparing without doing. You know that moment when you feel like you've worked all afternoon, but really all you did was reorganize your Notion folders or fiddle with the layout of your calendar? That's the trap of preparing without doing. It's slippery because it feels like progress. You've been busy, you've been moving things around, but nothing has actually inched forward. Preparation delivers the same false satisfaction as achievement without requiring the discomfort of starting, and your brain is eager to take that trade. The setup rituals are endless. You sit with the best intentions to write, but before a word lands on the page, you're selecting fonts, adjusting templates, or browsing for the perfect writing app. Students swear they're studying, but somehow spend an hour choosing playlists before opening their notes. Workers say they're focused, yet lose entire mornings color coding boards and syncing productivity tools. What ties these examples together is the illusion. You can leave the day exhausted from effort, with little real progress to show. Technology makes this cycle worse. Every year brings new apps for planning, managing, scheduling, measuring. Each tool promises clarity, but each also gives you a new way to stay busy without advancing the real work. Hybrid and remote setups intensify the dynamic because people bounce between chats, calendars, video calls, and endless dashboards. Research shows that this constant tool hopping and meeting churn drains huge portions of the workday. Instead of long sessions of focused output, the day splinters into fragments of shallow preparation. The result? Hours disappear into what feels like productivity theater, while the core project remains untouched. Why is this so appealing? Because it feels safer. When you polish a system or design the perfect note structure, you feel in control. Facing what matters, writing an opening paragraph, recording a first video draft, sketching an idea that may flop, feels uncertain and uncomfortable. Preparation sidesteps that unease. It provides a momentary sense of certainty, which psychology research shows the brain craves when tasks feel ambiguous or high stakes. That pursuit of cognitive comfort explains why the preparation trap is so sticky. It lets you appear diligent without exposing yourself to the discomfort of real action. Consider Sarah, a college senior with a deadline looming. She planned to finish half her paper on Saturday. By midnight, she hadn't typed a single paragraph. What she had finished was 3 new playlists for concentration, a reorganized bookshelf, and countless tweaks to her note-taking app. To her, the day had been full of effort. In reality, all she had done was circle the moment she feared, writing that first clumsy sentence. Preparation gave her the comfort of feeling ready, but readiness never arrived. That's the cruel part. There's always one more playlist to build, one more workspace to tidy, one more method to fine-tune. Yet none of those things deliver a finished paper. This is why it's so important to separate real output from the rituals around output. Drafts written, code shipped, presentations rehearsed, those are evidence of work done. The rest is often camouflage. The truth is, most actual progress feels awkward in the moment. Opening a blank document means battling clunky first sentences. Recording the first attempt at a video often means stiff delivery and awkward pauses. Going to the gym means pushing through discomfort. None of it looks aesthetic or polished. That's exactly why the brain steers toward playlists, folders, templates, and tidy dashboards. Those look clean, immediate, and controllable, while the real task looks messy. Once you recognize that pattern, spotting it in your daily habits becomes easier. Pause when you catch yourself organizing workspaces instead of starting the work itself. Notice when planning to-do lists quietly takes the place of actually tackling an item on them. The recognition alone strips much of the trap's power. Because when you see preparation for what it is, avoidance dressed as progress, you can choose differently. Sometimes it's as simple as asking, what's the smallest step I could take right now? And then taking it before your brain drags you back into rituals of setup. This doesn't mean preparation has no value. Tools can support you, but only when used in service of actual execution. A neat Trello board is worthless if its tasks don't move. A calendar means nothing if deadlines still slide. A playlist doesn't matter if the exam remains unstudied. The distinction that counts is between organizing for clarity and organizing as a stall. The first clears the path for action, the second becomes the path itself, and only one delivers results. It can feel harsh to admit, but the only way to escape this cycle is to embrace the discomfort of beginning. Not someday, not when things are perfectly arranged, but now, with whatever messy first step you can take. That's when momentum builds, because done work, no matter how rough, creates energy for the next step. Preparation, in contrast, gives zero compounding effect. You can prepare endlessly, but find yourself trapped in the same place year after year. The gap between potential and reality remains wide, fenced in by rituals that look like focus at the moment. The preparation trap also explains why so many long workdays still feel empty. Without clear checkpoints of finished tasks, the day collapses into a haze of setting up without following through. Hybrid workers know this feeling well. Meetings stacked in the name of coordination, tools updated in the name of organization, but little that represents real output completed. The exhaustion is real, but so is the lack of results. Understanding that difference changes how you end a day. Instead of asking, "Was I busy?" the sharper question becomes, "What's finished that didn't exist this morning?" That's the only measure your future self will care about. Avoiding this pitfall takes vigilance. It requires catching yourself in the small moments when comfort wins over progress. Every time you slip into maintenance mode, reorganizing files, tweaking formats, changing profile bios instead of writing a page, you have to pull back. Label it for what it is. Decide if it actually clears the path forward or if it only delays you. That simple pause can reroute a lost afternoon into a finished chapter, a draft email sent, or a first step taken. This shift isn't about eliminating all preparation. Some structure is necessary. It's about stripping out the excess and refusing to mistake it for real work. Otherwise, you spend half your life perfecting wrappers around the task instead of facing the task. Recognizing that boundary between work that produces results and rituals that only feel like work is the core skill that frees you from this cycle. And here's where the stakes rise, because the preparation trap isn't the only illusion at play. Even if you sidestep it, the culture around productivity is full of widely accepted practices that quietly slow you down. Routines, habits, and beliefs we're taught to admire can turn into invisible anchors. We call them productivity hacks, when in truth they're myths that keep you stuck. What if the very systems you've been relying on to get ahead are the same ones holding you back? Think about that for a moment. The myths that keep you stuck. There are certain ideas about productivity that sound useful on the surface, but quietly drain your energy every day. These aren't small habits, they're myths, repeated so often that they feel like common sense. Multitasking, rigid rituals, overloaded calendars, and equating busyness with progress are some of the most popular. They look impressive, they feel legitimate, but they quietly prevent you from moving forward in ways that count. To untangle procrastination, you first need to spot and discard these myths for what they are. Take multitasking first. It's treated as a badge of honor, the skill you put on resumes or boast about when someone asks how you manage to keep up. But when you try splitting attention, answering emails while sitting in a meeting, listening to a podcast while writing a report, you don't double your results. You dilute them. Research into task switching shows substantial losses in speed and accuracy. Some studies describe declines in the tens of % range. What feels like efficiency is really your brain burning cycles on the constant switch. The cost is invisible in the moment, but obvious in the long run. Fragmented focus, more mistakes, and work that simply takes longer than it should. The reality is that doing one task with complete attention often outperforms juggling 3 with half your focus. The replacement is deceptively simple: single tasking. Choose a block of time, protect it, do one thing until it's finished or hits a natural breakpoint. That kind of depth works with your wiring instead of tearing it apart. Now look at the myth of the flawless morning ritual. Somewhere along the line, productivity advice equated waking at exactly 5 a.m., journaling, meditating, stretching, and drinking specialized powders with unlocking success. Routines can help, yes, but rigidity often backfires. If one element of the ritual fails, hitting snooze, skipping the journaling, you judge the day as wasted before it even begins. What was supposed to be a support system quietly becomes another form of procrastination. More energy goes into preserving the image of an idealized morning than into work itself. The truth is, it's not those exact steps that create success, but whether your morning opens space for clarity and action. A flexible framework works better than strict choreography. If a routine helps, keep it. If it turns into another hoop to jump through, strip it away. The replacement here is flexibility, a structure that supports you without collapsing when reality interrupts. Calendars provide another illusion. You can spend an afternoon shifting boxes, color-coding categories, syncing reminders across devices until the screen looks tidy. It feels like control. But the first unexpected call or urgent request often throws the whole plan into disarray. By midweek, the polished schedule unravels, yet the tweaking continues. The deeper problem is confusing the appearance of organization with actual progress. A neat grid means nothing if it doesn't generate finished work. What helps is not an intricate system to manage life minute by minute, but a simple setup that fits your rhythm, something you'll actually use when plans change. Think of it as scaffolding, not sculpture. The replacement is clarity over complexity. Maintain a system just simple enough to guide action, not so elaborate that it becomes its own full-time project. Perhaps the most persistent myth is that being busy equals being productive. Long hours, back-to-back meetings, endless email chains, these activities generate a visible kind of importance. But busyness measures motion, not progress. You can sit through 10 calls, chase 100 messages, and end the day with nothing substantial completed. This trap is especially sticky in workplaces that reward visibility over results. The exhaustion feels legitimate, but the outcomes prove otherwise. One example: a manager I worked with once realized her full week of nonstop meetings left her with 0 actual deliverables. The meetings had value only in appearance, not in contribution. Recognizing this gap changed everything for her. She began measuring days not by hours filled, but by priorities finished. The replacement strategy is simple: quality over quantity. A shorter, quieter day stacked with tangible progress far outpaces a longer one full of scattered activity. Another widespread belief is that motivation has to come first. People wait for the spark, the perfect moment to feel ready, energized, or inspired. But that spark rarely arrives when you need it. Waiting for it is like waiting for perfect weather. You can end up staring at the sky indefinitely. Evidence suggests the opposite. Action generates motivation, not the other way around. Once you start, even in an uninspired state, momentum builds and motivation follows. The current self prefers waiting because postponement feels safer than risking clumsy beginnings. But progress hides in those first messy steps that trigger energy to accumulate. The replacement here is clear. Start before you feel ready and let motion fuel your drive. Together, these myths share one thing: they reward appearances. Multitasking shows off your ability to juggle. Elaborate routines make mornings look purposeful. Calendar tweaking creates the illusion of command. Busyness earns approval from managers and peers. Waiting for motivation spares you from uncomfortable starts. In each case, your present self gets its hit of reassurance. But your future self, the one depending on results, receives little. The myths survive because they look reasonable. who wouldn't want to handle multiple tasks, organize their days, make the most of mornings, or stay busy. Yet beneath the surface, these behaviors protect you more from discomfort than from failure. They emphasize feeling good in the present, not succeeding in the long run. Spotting these myths isn't about dismissing structure or self-management altogether. It's about stripping away what's performative so you keep what's actually useful. Deep, single-focused work outperforms scatter. Flexible routines support without suffocating. Simple systems keep you on track more reliably than complicated ones. A small number of completed priorities achieves more than a long list of activities that go nowhere. And starting even when uninspired beats waiting endlessly for motivation to arrive. These are not glamorous replacements, but they work.